He was 35, totally healthy and full of life. And then, well, this happened to Jake Hall.
It really is one of those headlines that just completely stops your scroll.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, the world had a totally new tragic obsession.
Yeah, it is hard to process.
It is. Welcome to Starscope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and, viral influencer scandals.
Right, from red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we basically dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
Exactly. And our mission today is to unpack the sudden and really shocking death of former The Only Way Is Essex star Jake Hall.
Which is a story that has just exploded online.
Totally. We've pulled together a huge stack of sources for this deep dive. We are looking at reporting from The Mirror, The Guardian, Hindustan Times, Men's Journal, and local Spanish authorities.
Because the goal here is to separate the verified facts from the massive rumor mill that is swirling right now.
Right, and that rumor mill is moving incredibly fast.
Too fast, honestly. Which is why we need to slow it down today. We aren't just reconstructing a tragic morning. We want to decode the complex legacy of a man who was basically in the middle of a huge life transition.
Yeah, stepping away from reality TV and trying to be an artist. And above all, a dad.
Exactly.
So if you are listening to this right now, think about how quickly you usually scroll through a headline, you see a familiar face, you read tragic accident, and you just move on.
Right, it's just human nature.
It is. But we want to go beyond that surface level today. Let's start with the incident itself.
Okay, so the timeline begins in Majorca,
Right?
up in the north, in a town called Santa Margalida.
A really beautiful area.
Super idyllic. He was at a rented holiday villa. It reportedly goes for about £200 a night, so it's not some mega mansion, just a traditional Spanish villa with those classic blue shutters.
A quiet getaway.
Exactly. But at 7:30 a.m. local time, on a Wednesday, May 6, 2026, the Spanish police get a call to this address.
And what they find is just a grim, chaotic scene. According to the local paper Ultima Hora and The Sun, Jake Hall was found in a pool of blood.
Which is just a terrifying image.
It really is. He had fatal wounds to his head and his chest.
And the suspected cause of these injuries is what makes this whole situation so bizarre.
Right, because it wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense.
No. Authorities found deep cuts that were apparently caused by sharp pieces of glass.
Which is horrifying.
It is. The working theory that the police are investigating is that he crashed through, or maybe lunged at, a glass door or a window inside the villa.
It's just such a violent way to go. The Spanish Civil Guard is leading the investigation, and they've publicly stated they are treating this as an accidental death for now.
Right, though an official autopsy in Palma is still pending.
But the narrative gets incredibly complicated here because he wasn't alone in this villa.
No, he wasn't. There were 6 other people staying at the property with him, 4 men and 2 women.
And the police questioned them immediately.
Of course. And according to their statements, the group had been out partying all night. They returned to the rental property in the early hours of the morning to, just continue the gathering.
Okay, I really want to pause here and push back on the narrative that's forming in the press right now.
Go for it.
Because we are seeing all these reports quoting unnamed police sources, saying he was in a, quote, highly agitated state when he went through the window.
Right, I saw that.
And outlets keep mentioning that authorities are investigating the potential involvement of narcotic substances.
Which is standard procedure, but yeah.
Exactly. But my question for you is, are we risking turning a tragic freak accident into a sensationalized true crime story before the toxicology and autopsy reports are even finished?
That is the danger of the 24-hour news cycle, isn't it?
100%.
When a high-profile figure dies suddenly, especially under unusual circumstances involving a party, the media ecosystem instantly demands a scandal or a villain.
Right. People want a neat explanation for something that is inherently chaotic.
Exactly. And obviously, authorities have to investigate every single avenue, including the potential role of substances. But we really have to understand the psychology of witness memory in the immediate aftermath of a trauma.
Because human memory isn't a video recording?
Not at all.
If you've just watched your friend suffer a fatal accident with a glass door, your perception of the hours leading up to that event is going to be incredibly fractured.
Yeah, the human brain really struggles to process sudden, violent loss. It actively searches for a narrative that makes sense of the chaos.
So you're saying they might misremember his mood?
Absolutely. In a state of shock, witnesses might misinterpret earlier excitement or just normal stress as this agitated state the media is running with.
Because their brains are trying to retroactively explain the terrible thing that just happened.
Exactly. Until the Spanish Civil Guard actually releases the forensic analysis, reducing his final moments to a party gone wrong trope is just irresponsible. It ignores the mechanics of a real investigation.
And honestly, that is not even the most eerie part of this story.
No, it's not.
Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about a shocking twist in his career that nobody saw coming. But right now, we need to look at the digital trail he left behind right before the end of that night.
Which really changes the context of everything.
It really does. It feels almost like a modern-day accidental diary.
That's a great way to put it.
I mean, think about your own social media for a second. When you post something, it's usually just a fleeting mood, right?
You don't overthink it.
But the second you pass away, those exact same words are frozen in amber. They get scrutinized by millions of people.
Everyone's looking for clues.
Exactly. People look at a casual video and search for a profound final testament or like a hidden cry for help.
The phrase frozen in amber captures it perfectly.
Yeah.
But in Jake's case, his final posts actually were profoundly reflective.
Yeah, they were heavily curated.
Very much so. He posted a video montage just hours before his death. It showed him wearing sharp suits, dancing, just looking completely in his element.
And mixed in with that were clips of his daughter, River, dancing by the water.
Right. And the soundtrack he chose to lay over all of this was the Rolling Stones' Beast of Burden.
I'll never be your beast of burden.
Exactly.
I mean, that is a song entirely about refusing to carry unnecessary weight.
Yeah.
It's about demanding to be seen for who you really are, not just what you can do for someone else.
Yeah. And the caption he typed out alongside that video is just incredibly revealing.
Do you have the exact quote?
I do. He wrote, "Life is bollocks sometimes, but I'm going to try remember the good things, looking through things. I'm just making art in many forms."
Wow. Life is bollocks sometimes.
Yeah. It's a real statement of intent. He openly acknowledges his struggle, but then he immediately pivots to a conscious choice to focus on creation.
Right, I'm just making art.
And this wasn't an isolated thought. If we look at a post from just days prior, he provides deep context into his psychological state.
What did he say in that one?
He wrote, "When you do right and it still goes wrong, you don't run from it, you own it. That's why I come back to my art, turning pain into something you can look at, something you can feel, something beautiful. The question is, what do you give back? Pain or beauty? I know what I choose."
Oh, man. That is the ultimate dilemma for someone who grew up on reality TV, isn't it?
How so?
Well, on a show like The Only Way Is Essex, you are literally paid to turn your pain and your personal drama into mass entertainment.
That's a really good point.
And now, years later, he is trying to turn his pain into beauty through physical art. That represents a massive psychological shift. He went from seeking attention to seeking meaning.
A brilliant distinction. He was a man in deep transition. And it was a literal geographic transition as well.
Right, moving to Spain.
Yeah, over a year before his death, back in March of 2025, he started referring to Majorca on his social media as his healing island.
Healing Island. That says so much right there.
It does. He loved the lifestyle so much, he publicly considered changing his name to Jake Hall. He was actively trying to shed an old skin.
But when you understand the sheer scale of what he was dealing with back in London, it suddenly makes perfect sense why he fled to an island to paint.
Absolutely.
And why his daughter became his absolute anchor. That search for peace wasn't just a solitary artist's journey. It was deeply tied to the people he left behind.
Because beyond the fame and the fashion, Jake Hall was a father.
He leaves behind an 8-year-old daughter, River, whom he shared with his ex-fiancée, Misse Beqiri.
And listeners might know Misse Beqiri as a Swedish model and a former star of The Real Housewives of Cheshire.
Yes. And the public tribute Misse released after his death is just, it strips away all the celebrity pretense. It is raw, devastating grief.
What did she say?
She wrote, "I never thought I would ever have to write this, and the pain of even putting these words down feels unbearable. There was no way you were ever supposed to go. My heart is shattered, and so is our daughter's."
God. What's particularly moving about her statement is her reliance on the mundane details.
Yeah, totally.
She didn't offer polished PR platitudes about his legacy. She wrote about his constant mission to stop her from taking naps.
Which is such a funny, specific relationship detail.
Right. She talked about his visceral love for music and how deeply he felt every sound.
She even included an incredibly personal inside joke.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, referencing her brother, she wrote, "As my brother used to say, you jippos, I know you're laughing together now."
That is what strikes me the most. When a public figure dies, you usually expect a sterile press release.
Exactly.
But this was the messy, beautiful detail of a real lived-in relationship.
She also painted a very intense picture of him as a father. She noted that his love for River was, in her words, so strong it almost scared me because I knew you would go to the ends of the earth for her.
And you see that unapologetic adoration in his own digital footprint, too.
Oh, for sure.
Just days before the accident, he posted a photo holding hands with River, and the caption was simply, "My world, my world, my world."
It's heartbreaking. And we also see the ripples of this loss across his past relationships, right?
Yeah, Chloe Lewis, his childhood sweetheart who co-starred with him on TOWIE, had a very subtle but poignant reaction.
Because their relationship on the show was notoriously turbulent.
To say the least, it was basically the dramatic fuel for several seasons.
Yeah.
But in the wake of his death, she quietly liked a tribute posted by Jake's friend, Dan Bullman.
And Dan Bowman's tribute focused on a very specific aspect of Jake. He called him a fiercely loyal and loving father, but he also emphasized Jake's raw creative power.
Raw creative power.
Yeah, Dan said they had just been on the phone 2 days prior, formulating a plan to bring Jake's creative vision to the world properly to make his daughter proud.
That phrase, raw creative power, is honestly the skeleton key to understanding his entire life.
I completely agree.
When we look at the trajectory of his 35 years, that creativity wasn't just a hobby he picked up on a Spanish vacation. It was the driving engine behind a roller coaster career that completely defied the standard reality television arc.
And if you're loving these Hollywood and pop culture twists, make sure you're subscribed to Starscope Report, because we've got even crazier stories ahead.
We really do.
But getting back to Jake, this is where we really need to dig into the mechanics of his career, because his rise and fall in the business world is staggering.
It really is. He rose to massive fame in 2015 when he joined TOWIE.
And for our listeners outside the UK, TOWIE is a cultural juggernaut. It makes you instantly recognizable.
But he didn't just stop there. He used that initial platform to make a massive leap into the fashion industry.
He didn't just slap his name on a t-shirt for a quick brand deal either.
Exactly. The same year he joined the show, he founded the menswear brand Preview Studio. And we really need to emphasize how incredibly successful this venture was.
Like, legitimately successful.
He built the brand to a point where it was acquired by JD Sports in 2021 and then subsequently acquired by the massive Frasers Group in 2022.
Wait, JD Sports and Frasers Group, those are massive high street retail giants.
Huge.
How does a guy from a reality show land a multi-million-pound buyout from conglomerates of that size?
It is a testament to his actual business acumen. The reality TV to fashion pipeline usually works through licensing, right?
Right. A star lends their face to an existing brand for a cut of the sales.
Exactly. But Jake built a physical supply chain, he designed the garments, and he created a brand identity that had standalone value.
That is a lot of work.
It is. He leveraged his massive social media following to lower customer acquisition costs, making the company highly attractive to corporate buyers who wanted that established audience.
That is genuinely impressive.
Yeah.
But the reality of retail is brutal. And this is where his story takes a massive hit.
Yeah, it does.
After those huge buyouts in 2021 and 2022, Preview Studio fell into administration in 2023. He tried to pivot, launching a new label called By Jake Hall, but that business fell into liquidation in 2025.
It's a tough industry.
I see these terms thrown around in the financial press all the time, but for those listening, what is the actual difference between administration and liquidation in the UK system?
It's a crucial distinction. Think of administration like a corporate ER.
Okay, ER.
The company is failing, usually running out of cash, so you bring in outside specialists called administrators to put it on life support. They try to restructure the debt or find a buyer to save the core business.
Trying to protect jobs and all that.
Exactly. If they cannot save it, the company moves to liquidation.
And that's the end.
That is the morgue.
Yeah.
You pull the plug, sell off the hospital bed, the equipment, any remaining assets, and lock the doors forever.
Wow. So within a span of roughly 4 years, he experienced the absolute peak of entrepreneurial success, selling his company to corporate giants.
Yep.
Followed immediately by watching one company enter the ER and his backup plan go straight to the morgue.
Exactly. Imagine the immense psychological pressure of that timeline.
It must have been crushing.
You are trying to manage supply chains, employ people, and navigate complex corporate buyouts, all under the glaring, often unforgiving spotlight of reality TV fame.
Because there's an audience out there that actively resents your success.
Totally. They're waiting for you to fail so they have something to talk about, to achieve multi-million-pound buyouts and then endure administration and liquidation back to back. I mean, it is a financial and emotional whiplash that would break most people.
Which perfectly explains his final chapter in Majorca.
It really does.
He was stripped down to the studs, he stepped away from the fast, mass-produced world of commercial fashion and turned to the slow, deliberate world of physical art.
A total reset.
Yeah, contrast the cheap manufactured drama of reality TV with the quiet, solitary act of sculpting clay or painting a canvas on a Spanish island. He was quite literally changing his medium to heal his mind.
He was stripping away all the corporate machinery. And despite the business failures, he maintained massive respect in creative circles.
That became really clear in the aftermath.
Right. When news of his death broke, the tributes poured in from heavyweights in the fashion industry, not just reality stars.
Who reached out?
Umar Kamani, the boss of Pretty Little Thing, wrote an incredibly touching message saying, "Light up paradise, my friend."
That's beautiful.
And celebrity stylist E.J. King talked about how Jake captivated people and brought a unique brightness to every room he entered.
It just shows that his true impact was never tied to the success of his balance sheets.
No, it was his energy.
People respected the attempt. They respected that he was a man actively trying to rebuild himself from the ground up, choosing canvas instead of cameras.
It's a narrative of profound resilience that was just cut violently short. The tragedy lies not just in the sudden loss of life, but in the loss of that potential. He was doing the heavy lifting to heal.
He really was. So, as we bring this deep dive to a close, we have to look at the entire complex picture. We are looking at a 35-year-old man who lived multiple distinct lives in a very short window of time.
A reality star.
A fashion mogul who built and lost empires.
An artist seeking refuge on a beautiful island.
And above all, a father whose love for his daughter was the absolute center of his universe. All of that gone in a single, sudden, violent moment in a holiday villa.
It forces a perspective shift for all of us, doesn't it?
It really does. When you read a tabloid headline or get a breaking news alert on your phone, it is incredibly easy to reduce people to flat two-dimensional characters.
Oh, definitely. We label them the reality star, the failed businessman, the party goer.
But when you actually unpack the sources, when you read the specific heartbreaking words his family left behind, and understand the brutal mechanics of the business world he survived, you see the messy, agonizing, and beautiful reality of a human being.
Yeah.
J. Cole was a guy constantly trying to reinvent himself. He faced massive public failures, and yet his final thoughts were focused entirely on leaving something beautiful behind for his daughter.
And that leaves you with a final thought to mull over, something that extends far beyond the details of this specific story.
What's that?
Well, J. Cole spent his final days talking openly about turning pain into art. He made a conscious choice to focus on beauty over suffering. He curated his digital footprint to reflect that philosophy, and completely unexpectedly, that footprint became his final legacy to the world.
It makes you look at your own phone differently, doesn't it?
It really does.
If your digital footprint, your last few Instagram posts, your final text messages, the last song you shared with a friend suddenly became your frozen in amber legacy tomorrow morning, what story would it tell the world? What would it say about what you were trying to overcome?
It is a sobering question. We all leave a trail.
We really do. We started this deep dive looking at a shattered glass door in a beautiful Spanish villa, a visceral image of an abrupt, violent end. But maybe the real story isn't the shattered glass itself. Maybe it is about the man who, right up until his final hours, was trying to gather up the broken pieces of his life and turn them into art.
Beautifully said.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.